Hello. Hello. This time we're going to discuss about quadratic graphs and their properties. So here we're going to graph quadratic functions of the form y equals ax squared and y equals ax squared plus c. Okay? So we have here different vocabularies that involve quadratic function. We have the quadratic function, the standard form of a quadratic function, quadratic parent function, the parabola. We also have the vertex, minimum, maximum, and the axis of symmetry. Okay? So we have here, a quadratic function is a function that can be written in the form ax squared plus bx plus c, where a is not equal to 0. This is the standard form of a quadratic function. Okay? Now, why is it that it is quadratic? What is the highest exponent? The highest exponent of the variable is 2. Okay? So we have here 2 and then 2. These are all examples of a quadratic function. Okay. What will happen if your a is equal to 0? So here, your a here is 3, your a here is 1, and your a here is 1. If your a is equal to 0, then what do you think will happen? You will have there 0 x squared plus bx plus c. So if your a is 0, then this is no longer here. Therefore, if your a is equal to 0, then the resulting is no longer a quadratic function. That's why a should not be equal to 0 to make it a quadratic function. Okay? Again, it is called quadratic because the highest exponent is 2. Okay? So we have here, the equation y equals x raised to 2 is an example of a quadratic equation. This is actually the parent function. If you're going to graph the given equation, this is the outcome. This is the graph of y equals x squared. Okay? The graph of a quadratic function is a curve called a parabola. So this is a parabola. Okay? Always remember that the graph of a quadratic function is a parabola. A parabola is a U-shaped curve of a quadratic function. It may opens upward and it may opens downward. Okay? So we have here, f of x is equal to x squared or y equals x squared is called the parent function. Do not be confused. F of x is just the same as y. Okay? So you are given with the parent function. Y is equal to x squared. Okay? So if x is 0, so that is 0 raised to 0, that is 0. Okay? So your y is 0. If your x is 1, so 1 raised to 2, so 1 times 1, that is 1. If your x is equal to 2, 2 raised to 2, so what is 2 times 2? That is 4. If x equals negative 1 squared, so negative 1 times negative 1, that is 1. If x is negative 2 squared, negative 2 times negative 2, that is equal to 4. Okay? So if we are going to plot the points on a Cartesian plane and connect all the points, we will come up with this one. Okay? So that is the graph of the given function y equals x squared. Okay? So we have here, what is the graph if A is greater than 0? Okay, so we have here, the graph or the parabola opens up if your A is equal to 0. And this is what we call the vertex. The vertex is the minimum point. Okay? If it opens up, the vertex is the minimum point. And if your A is less than 0, then the parabola opens down. And your vertex is the maximum. Okay? Again, if your A is greater than 0, then the parabola opens up and vertex is the minimum point. And if your A is less than 0, meaning to say your A is -1, -2, -3, like that, then the parabola opens down and the vertex is the maximum point. Okay? So we have here, when your A is greater than 0, then your vertex is the minimum point. And the value of your Y is what we call the the minimum value. Okay? When we are talking about the minimum value, it refers to your Y. The coordinates of your vertex is actually x, y. That is the coordinates of the vertex. And when we are talking about the minimum value, you are referring to the y coordinates. Okay? If your A is less than 0, let's say this one. What is our A here? It is -1. Okay? That is -1. So, if your A is -1, the parabola opens downward. And your vertex is the maximum point. And when we are talking about maximum value, we are referring to the y coordinates, which is 5. Okay? So, that is all about minimum value and minimum point. Minimum point is the vertex. And then, the minimum value is the value of y. That is when your A is greater than 0. But if the parabola opens downward, the minimum value refers to your y, and the maximum point is the vertex. Okay? So we have here, identify the vertex of each parabola. So what is the vertex of this one? What is the coordinates of the vertex? You're just going to find, what is your x here? 1, 2, 3. So -3. And what is your y? 1, 2. How about here? What is the coordinates of your vertex? 1, 2. Your x is 2. And your y is 5. Okay? So we already gave the vertex. Now, what is the minimum or maximum value? So in here, you are talking about the minimum value. So what is the minimum value? That is your y, which is 2. Here, what is the maximum value? You are talking about your y again. So what is the maximum? It is 5. Okay? Maximum value. So again, when we are talking about maximum value, you are talking about the value of your y or the y coordinates. Okay? Next, we have here, what is the vertex? What is the vertex of this one? You have -2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What is the question? What is the maximum value? That is 5. How about here? What is the vertex? The coordinates of the vertex. You have 1, 2, 3. And then the value of your y is -1. What is the minimum value? And that is -1. Okay? Next, how about axis of symmetry? What is all about axis of symmetry? The vertical line that divides the parabola into two symmetrical halves is the axis of symmetry. Okay? The axis of symmetry always passes through the vertex of the parabola. So here is the vertex. So this is the axis of symmetry. It divides the parabola into symmetrical halves. So we have here also, this is the axis of symmetry. Okay? Now, we have here, this is the graph of a given function. What is the vertex? The vertex here is 3, 0. And what is the axis of symmetry? Axis of symmetry is actually your x coordinate, this one. That's why x is equal to 3. Okay? So that is one way of identifying the axis of symmetry. Once you are given with the vertex x and then y, your x is your axis of symmetry. Okay? And your y is the maximum or the minimum value. Okay? What if you are given with 2 points? We have here -4 and 0 and then 0, 0. How are you going to find for the axis of symmetry? All you need to do is identify the value of your x. You have there, this is the point, you have -4 and 0. And this one we have 0 and 0. You're just going to concentrate on the values of x. So you have -4 plus 0 divided by 2, and that is -4 divided by 2, and that is -2. Therefore, your axis of symmetry is -2. Okay? Let us have here. Okay. How to find for the axis of symmetry here? Give the coordinates of this vertex. Your vertex is -1. And what is our y? 0. I'm sorry. So the vertex here, the coordinates of the vertex is -1, 0. What is your x here? Your x is this one, -1. Therefore, the axis of symmetry is -1. Okay? How about here? It is too difficult to identify this one. That's why we need to concentrate on this. What is the coordinates of that point? Your x here is 1 and your y is 0. And then, what is the coordinates of the second point? 1, 2, 3, 4. And your y coordinates is 0. So all you need to do is add the 2x. 1 plus 4, divide it by 2. So 1 plus 4, that is 5, divided by 2, so you will have 2.5. 2.5 is your axis of symmetry. Okay? Next, we have this one. What is the axis of symmetry? Again, identify the coordinates of this vertex. You have 1, 2, 3, -3. And then your y is 0. So what is your axis of symmetry here? It is -3. How about here? It is too difficult to identify. You can identify it already. That is 1. But let us try to get the average. So the coordinates of this point is -2 and 0. While here, the coordinate of this point is 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 0. Just add the 2x. You have -2 plus 4, and then divide it by 2. Negative 2 plus 4, that is 2, divided by 2, so that is equal to 1. Therefore, the axis of symmetry is equal to 1. Okay? So that is all about finding for the axis of symmetry. Any question?